Hello, I'm Podcast Pete Kane. You're on the Echo Effect podcast, and I am going to talk to you about our second step in our ecosystem. Why it's so important to jump in and do podcasts. Not for what you think it's for, but it's for the three things I'm going to give you. Hopefully, this can help you really understand the transformation that's happening. You can look at the recent elections, and one candidate embraced podcasting, the other did not. One won, one lost. So that's just a little tip. Not that I'm political, but I do watch trends, and the election cycle is a beautiful way to understand what's happening. So let's get to the first tip. Why podcasting? And this is for people who want to 10x their business. If you're not interested in scaling or 10xing your business, you don't need to listen to this because it's really directed to, we have three specific avatars, people that entrepreneurs want to grow and scale their business for greater impact, nonprofits that want to grow and scale their business for greater impact in their community. And third is corporate professionals who want to transition to being an entrepreneur to grow and impact their lives and the people that the skills that they've learned. So if any one of those three are yours, then I think you're going to be in for a beautiful surprise and a way for you to address either one of those avatars. So podcasting, when I started 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, didn't know what the heck I was doing. Just my partner said, Pete, you like golf. Why don't you podcast? I had recently had a stroke, recently was learning to talk again. I was getting better. I shut down my digital marketing business because it probably gave me a stroke because it's so competitive. It's just so many moving parts. I wasn't able to keep up. But anyway, I shut it down. I started podcasting golf. I wasn't playing golf, so I lost the emotional connection with my audience. And you got to have whatever podcast you want to do, you better be emotionally connected to your audience, whatever it is, whatever problem you solve, whatever subject you're diving deep into. But podcasting gave me the ability to do about 300 plus. And what I did with those podcasts, because I had a person, he was young, he says, you got a lot of white noise out there. That was the way he looked at it. But I remember way back when, 25 years ago, when a person said to me, and I don't even remember his name, he said, if you go to give a talk at, say, an association or a group, record it. This was before iPhone. So you had to bring a tape recorder in there. But he said, every time you do a talk, record it. Because he recognized that once it's over, can't recreate it. It's done. But if you have it and need it, it's better than to have it and need it than to not have it and need it. So in this case, why I did so many podcasts. One, I wanted to get to know people, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But I had a built-in curiosity, always did. And so it kind of fed me, but I switched from golf to senior living because I lived in a senior living. I saw the issues. The vendors would come in there wanting to share what they do, and the management wouldn't promote them. So they'd show up to do a show and tell. Nobody was aware of it. So they're wasting the time of the vendor. So I started switching to senior living, to bring these people on, to tell their story, to learn about them, to refer them, to connect them, to put them in a digital asset, because those assets are out there. Search Kennesaw Happenings and see. Search Pete Kane Podcasting or Podcast Pete. I chose to do Podcast Pete. A lot of people will do a middle initial. You look at, if you're a sports person, Stephen A. Smith. They don't say Stephen Smith because that's a common name. So he threw an A in there. You all know him He's probably the best sports commentator in the business. And he's Stephen A. Smith. Now, I could do Pete E. Kane, but I didn't. So if you search Pete Kane, there's a bunch of people, Pete Kanes out there. So when I started with podcasting, I just, by accident, that became my middle initial. So search it, Pete Kane. Just search what's out there, Kennesaw Happenings. So we've done over 300 of them. And I've learned an incredible amount, along with learning the stories of people, better relationships that I have with my guests because I know their story. And when you know somebody's story, you don't forget it. When you're talking about just general numbers and details, people don't remember that. So much information out there, but they remember stories. Go back to your Bible days, parables. What's a parable? It's a story. That's why you can remember the parables in the Bible, because it's a story. And so we remember stories. That's why podcasting is just taken off. That's why when Joe Rogan, who's the king of the podcasting, did Donald Trump, it was 3 hours. That was watched by millions and millions of people. It was cut up, rebroadcast. I was all over. So that's the kind of exposure. Oops. Alexa off. So you're seeing modern technology happening right on our podcast because I set oops. There we go. I didn't even know I could hit a button on there. So I set 50-minute timers. That's why that went off. I do work for 50 minutes, then I take a 10-minute break. But we'll go a little bit over. Oh, shoot, downstairs. Alexa's going off. This could be crazy. I might have to cut this short a little bit. Yeah, it's off. Okay, good. Okay. So, no, it didn't. I hear it. So, dadgummit, it's going to bother me. But, Alexa, cut the timer off.
There are no timers set.
It is downstairs because I hear it. Okay, we'll do the best we can with this. This is kind of like business. Sometimes you don't know what happens. You just got to change and operate on the fly. So going back to the digital assets of a podcast, there's 300 digital assets created up there. Then I've been a guest on podcasts, so there's even more. So when you search my name, Pete Kane Podcasting, you're going to see a digital landscape that's really just starting, but it's impressive because I want you to search your name. Your name. See how what you show. If you just have a LinkedIn and your website, that's not enough today. You got to dominate the real estate online. And by doing that, podcasting can provide that. So, number 2, it's really bothering me. Okay, so what we do on podcasting is we invite the key strategic partners. So that's a whole separate podcast, but that's one of the things you can do. You invite people on a free podcast. Not too many people, unless they're fearful, will turn you down because it's free. I mean, you get a digital asset created. I mean, who doesn't want that? Just want their story out there. But a lot of people are scared because they think, oh, what if I say the wrong thing? What if you do say the wrong thing? You can't live in fear. So you just get on there and be yourself, be authentic, be genuine, share your story, show up with the best intention of really being the best guest you can be. And I try to show up to be the best host I can be. Together, we have a good digital asset. So the next thing is you learn from your podcast. You learn so much from your guests. Every single one is a learning experience. I'm trying to go to a banner where I can put up here because I want to give you an offer. Yeah, I think I'll just do it. And yeah, we'll be fine. Okay, I meant to put it in there before the podcast, but hey, when you have a stroke, certain things change. My short-term memory, not as good. My long-term memory, wow, it's crazy good. And other things have been developed. So Always when something happens in your life, there's a silver lining in everything. Look for it. When you look for what you can do best, do it. So all of a sudden, I was a good golfer. I mean, good by most standards. Five handicap, different, from 4 to 6 probably, just depending on the time of the year. But I loved it because it was strategy, and I loved to play 5 days a week. I haven't played 5 days. I haven't played hardly 5 times in a couple of years, maybe more than that, but not much. I don't play. Last time I played was, I don't know, 6 months ago. So you go from 5 days a week, loving it because it's a challenge, it's an outlet, to not playing it. You have to find other things. And I found podcasting as kind of my new golf because it fed me. It fed my challenge of figuring things out, understanding, being curious about people, just inviting interesting guests and creating that digital asset out there. Now, I didn't think of that when I first started. My partner just said, do podcasting. You like to talk, because I wasn't much of a writer. Being dyslexic and ADHD, writing was not my friend. I flunked English in high school. That was my number one language. It wasn't my second language. It was my first, and I flunked it. So I didn't graduate. I mean, I did summer school. I went there. But what I'm trying to say is that I always loved to talk and be curious. And I developed it because my academic career wasn't impressive. 2 times failed at Virginia Tech. Didn't even come close. I left before they kicked me out for academics. But that was before dyslexia was really understood. There's a lot more resources now. It's actually my superpower now. But back then it was not. So things kind of change. And so when you have podcasting, you have the ability to invite people on. And in our ecosystem, it's our number 2. It's creating assets, creating online courses, and being able to get yourself out there. So that's the number 2 of our ecosystem. So first, do podcasting because you can invite your key strategic partners. 2 is you learn. No, I think that's 3. 2 is that's a digital asset. And 3 is you get to learn from your guests. It's just accelerated learning. And learning is the essence of all the way we do. That's what Brendon Burchard, the number 1 coach and motivator and personal development guy and marketer in the world. And he has a community of Growth Day, which is number 5, but we're not going to get into it on this podcast. But I want you to do this. We have a podcast academy. If this is something that you're interested in, we gonna send you to, let me see. Okay, take the free assessment first. But if you put /PA for Podcast Academy, you can actually go and see it. Since we're doing the number 2, I want you to be able to see what we put together. But if you go to this, you'll be able to take our assessment, depending on what you're wanting to get. Our avatars are 3 different ones. And so depending on what you want, we put it out there for you. So anyway, take the assessment, see how we work. That was the number 1. Number 2 is podcasting and online courses, creating digital assets is number 2. Now, if you know of somebody that you think that this could help, share it with them. Share it with them, because the discovery of what's happening in this new economy, AI is flipping every business upside down, and you better be aware of it. That's number 9 on our ecosystem. So take our masterclass. I'll give you what the heck. There it is. Take the masterclass. That gives you all 10 of the steps. And that way you can grow and scale your business for the best year you've ever had in your life. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you for your time. Go be bold and make an impact.